Hi, I'm Asa, the content director of Academy of Therapy Wisdom, and I want to talk about one of our most underappreciated courses. It's called Becoming a Master Therapist, a Deliberate Practice Approach with Tory and Charlotte Howard. And I'm going to admit right now, I think we got the title for this course wrong. A lot of people didn't like the word master, and I totally understand why. So really, it should be called Becoming a Better Therapist, because that's really what it's about. It's about all the research that has been done on what actually makes a therapist more effective, like what actually gets better outcomes for clients. What are the factors that really matter? And then how do you actually practice those things? So I'm going to give you a hint right now. It's not what model you use. I've filmed hundreds of therapy courses and I've seen lots of different models, and there's a lot of amazing ones out there. But when it comes down to it, the things that make those models work are a lot of the same things. So this course is talking about what are those basic things, what are those, common factors, it's called in the research, that make a therapist really effective regardless of what model they're using. And it's also not how much time you've had in practice. You can have therapists who've been in practice for 30 years versus therapists who've been in practice for 5 years. And the therapist who's been in practice for 5 years can get better outcomes than the one who's been in practice for 30 years, depending on what they're actually focusing on in their practice. So this course is really about those basic common factors that make therapists really good at what they do. And at Therapy Wisdom, that's what we want. We want therapists who are really good at what they do because the world really needs that right now. So somewhere around this video, we'll link the free video with Tory Olds on the 6 myths of what makes an effective therapist. And we'll also link a conversation between Tory and Jules Taylor Shore about deliberate practice. Because that's the other thing about this course, is it doesn't just talk about what are the common factors, it talks about how do you practice them to actually get better. There's this whole new field of deliberate practice that is really talking about how can therapists practice their techniques. And it really talks about the difference between practice and performance. Because performance, like if you think about a concert pianist, performance is when they're on stage in front of an audience and they're playing the whole piece, doing everything. When you're in the therapy office with a client, you're doing performance. You're doing everything at the same time. And you're there with the client. That's the client as your audience. Deliberate practice is taking one little piece. So that's when the pianist takes this little one measure out of that whole symphony or concerto or whatever it is that they're playing. And they run that one measure over and over, or they run their scales over and over. And in therapy training, that's not always how training is done. You learn a lot of concepts and then you go into session and you try to apply them. The missing piece is how do you practice one little bit at a time on your own in a safe environment so you don't have to worry about how it's going to affect the client. You just can practice that one little piece. I think another reason this course maybe wasn't so popular is because it's focusing on the basics. Now, I'm not a therapist, but I am a martial artist. And I know that in martial arts, the most bang for your buck that you can get for practicing is focusing on the basics, practicing the basics over and over again. You could be a black belt, but when martial artists have competitions, the things that win the competitions are the basic techniques that you learn in your first month of training. It's just how good have you gotten at knowing how to use those basics, when to use those basics, and being really, really consistent in always being able to do those basic things really well. So just because this course focuses on certain basic core aspects of therapy doesn't mean it's not worth your time. It means actually that's exactly where you should be spending your time. From my martial arts experience, I know if you're ever in doubt about how to spend your practice time, going back to basics is always worth the effort. So I hope you'll check out the course. I hope you'll check out the free videos that we've linked either in the description or up here at the top or wherever the social media team has decided to put the link.